everybody, and welcome to... No, my voice has gone croaky. Plus I'm... Hello. So.
Now, long-term viewers of the Bakery Bears... I'm going to say that again.
You've totally done an outtake already.
What did I do? So I'm going to put these two in the pot together for the secret.
We're building the Back to the Future DeLorean.
Are you telling me that they've built a time machine out of Lego?
Stuck in an urn, it would have been perfect. It would have been the perfect beginning.
And it's coming back to me now. I feel like Celine Dion. It's all coming back to me now.
Please don't.
I'm trying to stop myself.
It's just a little bit. Now, it's up to you, really, how much you use. Look at that. Did you see that go in? How cool is that? And look, it looks purple.
Was I waffling a bit?
Yeah, but with the power of editing, we will lose the waffle.
Welcome, everybody, to the Bakery Bears video show featuring my favourite colourways.
Yes.
Now, we know how much you love this show, and let me tell you, you're in for a show and a half.
Yes.
And I shall tell you why. Imagine watching my favourite colourways and then being transported to an alternate universe where Kay does my favourite colourways again with the same dyes but gets a completely different colour.
Yes, it's a 2-for-1 today.
We always love. Do you know what I don't? Because you end up with too much of everything in your cupboard.
Buy one, get one free.
Yes.
I'm not into buy one, get one
It's a
free.
scam, baby. And then it goes off.
It's just to make you buy something you don't actually need because you think you're getting a bargain because you're getting two. But then
depends.
actually you didn't even need one of them.
Well, then you have to eat too much of it because you think, oh, I've got to get rid of it. And then
Yeah.
you've not done your body any good.
Depends
it's a
what it
scam.
is. Depends what it is, you know.
Just give us a good price
Yes,
on the product.
absolutely.
Everything's perfect.
Yes.
Forget all of that, though, because this, honestly, I've filmed a lot of my favourite colourways, and I've never filmed one like this before. Seeing, you know, especially with the dyes used in exactly the same order,
Yeah.
just changing the old technique.
Yeah. Totally different colour.
Yeah, I know. I mean, that's just amazing.
Yeah. Magical.
More than magical. So that's all.
Hope you like it, yeah.
I'm sure you will. It is just phenomenal. It was just so much fun to film. Slightly more challenging to edit.
Because there was a lot of it. Poor old Dan. He was like editing, like a little editing goblin in the corner.
Literally was 2-for-1.
Poor fellow. He was like, oh.
It was like doing 2 shows in one. But so much fun because the only way that you can see this technique to its fullest is by watching it happen back to back.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it would be...
Yeah,
you'd
wouldn't-
forget what you'd done.
You wouldn't realise, would you, that it was the same. Yeah, so it's good to watch them both together, I think.
And the best part is the first colour. It's a real blast from the past.
It is.
Like a full-on blast from the past.
It absolutely is, yeah. It's a very, very early colour that I created.
Yes.
Can't even think how many years ago it is.
Well, I can probably find out.
Right.
I tried to find out the other day, and it was so old, I couldn't find it the way I was going about it. But I've just suddenly, as we're sat here now, I thought of another way of identifying how old it is, and I think I will be able to find out.
See, I didn't date things in my dye books. I should have done that. I really wish I would date things more in all of my books, design books, dye books, everything, because I think it's a really good reference. Because you do forget how long ago things were.
Yeah. You do.
So I do date things now in my design book. I just, when I start something, I just pop the date at the top because I think it's really useful.
Yeah. Now, long-time viewers of this wonderful video show, of which you are watching today, may recall that our daughter Bryony and I have historically quite enjoyed doing Lego sets. Mm-hmm. Now, that sort of changed about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And I have now identified what the problem was, and that is none of the sets that they were bringing out interested us in the remotest detail.
That is true, yeah, that is true.
They become a bit, I don't know, just not us, a little bit stale.
Yeah, there was lots of
They were going in
sort of
all
like-
sorts of different directions.
Yeah, just
and
the sort of themes of them just wasn't...
none of which appealed to us. Now, that did change at Christmas.
Yes.
Because they brought out the marvellous Lego Home Alone set.
Yes.
And we established in the building of that, which we did over Christmas,
We did.
that it wasn't just Bryony and I who enjoyed doing Lego, but Kay also.
I joined in. It was
Amazing.
great. Loved it.
Yes.
We built the house all together. It was really fun.
Now, I think it's fair to say that in this country, in the UK, the two big holidays, and we don't really call them holidays.
We don't call them holidays, no.
The two big sort of seasonal celebrations are Christmas and Easter.
Yes.
That was always the case for me growing up, and I think your hearty yes probably tells me it was the same for you.
Yeah.
So it's the same for us now, and it has been, the whole time that we've been a family. And the question then arises is, if you, in the Christmas season, have done something that you've enjoyed, what precisely are we going to build this Easter?
Well, I know what we're building,
What are we going to build?
we're going to build, hopefully if it arrives in time, it's been dispatched. We're building the Back to the Future DeLorean.
Are you telling me that they've built a time machine out of Lego?
Yes, honey. They have.
I thought we weren't going to get it there. I did everything I could to set it up. But oh yes, completely unplanned. She led me into that one perfectly. If anyone hasn't seen Back to the Future, you'll have no idea what I was doing then.
I cannot believe there's people out there that haven't seen Back to the Future.
Well,
Do
prepare.
you think there are anybody out there? Have you not
Kate,
seen Back to the Future?
I invite you to read the comments on this video 24 hours after it's been released.
See how many people
And
have
please
not
meet
watched
the
Back
people.
to the Future.
And I'm not criticising you in the
No,
slightest.
absolutely not. No, I just think it's just surprising for me because it's such an iconic series of films. We love all three of them.
It's surprising for you because you've seen it and you love it.
True.
That's why it's surprising.
And I guess it's bound not to appeal to certain people because not every film appeals to everyone, does it?
No.
There's certain films I haven't seen that loads of you out there will have seen.
Yes.
Not mentioning Lord of the Rings.
Yes! To say that I'm excited. I mean, this is just like go to the foot of our stairs exciting. And I shall tell you why. I can't even find the words. Back to the Future has such a huge sort of link to me and my childhood.
Yeah.
That many things in my life have happened because of my love of Back to the Future. The car that I drive and many other things also. And Lego it also plays a huge part, or it has done historically. So to marry those two things together, now they have released in previous years a small set that didn't look quite so good.
Years ago.
2013, I think it was.
Was it really? Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Bryony and I built it together.
Yeah, you've got it somewhere. It's over there.
No.
That's not it.
No.
What's that?
Just
That's Playmobil.
Move on.
All right, sorry. Too many Back to the Future things in this room.
It's sealed away and kept nice and safe and comes out when it's time to play with.
Okay.
But it's very small, it's very average.
Yeah.
This new one
quite basic.
looks tremendous.
Yeah.
We've saved up our pennies to buy it and
Yes.
to be able to sit down all together and do it as a family. It's
Yeah.
just going to be the best. It's similar, to doing a jigsaw puzzle.
It is.
But 3D. I mean, you can
Yeah.
do 3D puzzles, can't you?
You can.
I bet they're great fun.
You can do. I've never done a 3D jigsaw puzzle,
Well,
but
that's a Lego set, isn't it?
kind of.
Yeah, just in a
kind
slightly
of.
different way.
But we've just found a way of being able to do it all together, the Lego, and it's just really fun, We'll put music on and we'll get Legoing, and it's just really fun to do.
We'll be listening to the soundtracks to Back to the
Back
Future.
to the Future, I imagine we will.
Let's see how far. I reckon I'll make a prediction because I don't think this set will take a massive amount of time to build.
No, it won't be like the house at Christmas.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
I think that we could probably get this done in 3 soundtracks.
Oh, right, okay.
That should be our gauge now.
Yeah.
As to how fast something is going to take to build. I think the Home Alone set was probably 10 soundtracks.
Oh, gosh, that took us a long time.
Maybe even 15.
Yeah, it took us a long time to do that. It was a big set.
Yes. Yes, that is Easter sorted. Forget the chocolate. Well, maybe not.
Well, I don't eat chocolate, so... Yeah, for me.
Forget the chocolate. We'll be diving in with that amazing Lego set, which hopefully will be arriving in the next sort of 24 hours.
Well, that's a bit ambitious.
Okay.
It was dispatched yesterday from somewhere in Europe. I can't. Where is Lego? Denmark. Is that? I think it might come from the Netherlands though.
Right.
It's somewhere European anyway, but it usually arrives within 3 or 4 days of the dispatch. So.
And then I'll just stare at the box.
Yes, can't open it until next week.
That's fine. We'll probably save it till Monday.
I'd say, yeah, as long as it arrives before.
Okay. I shall.
Look, I don't want him to get his hopes up, and every day is like...
Disappointed.
Oh, have you tracked it? Oh...
Disappointment. The disappointment is real, folks. Not in today's show, let me tell you. Because not only do we have some wonderful projects to show you...
We do.
We have an epic... What's off your needles?
Oh,
yes.
At last.
The knit or forfeit socks are finished.
Oh my gosh, I'd even forgotten that that's what they were.
It was that long ago.
It now makes all makes sense now as to why it's taken so long, but I will talk about that in What's Off.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then of course that wonderful My Favourite Colourways.
Yes.
But before we get there, I have to ask, Kay Jones, what's on your needles?
Well, goodness me, I'm so excited about this.
It's lovely.
Yeah, I've resisted the urge to post photos or, talk about it in our Facebook group or anything like that because I was just enjoying it and I thought I'm just going to be in the moment of enjoying this project until I get to come and talk to you about it. So I wanted to start something new and fun, and I think it follows on from, I think I was saying this in the last show, that I just love playing with colour and I love playing with different yarns and mixing those colours and seeing how they emerge under my needle, and I'm sure I spoke about this recently, and that was just on my mind, and I thought, I really just want to start something that allows me to do that, to go crazy and just play with all the colours and just have fun and just watch what emerges under my needles. And I thought about what I wanted to knit, and in the end it came down to what I've started. I say I don't often knit the same thing twice, but I don't actually often knit the same thing twice. Certainly I haven't knit this exact thing for a second time. I have knit the pattern but transformed it into something else. I'll tell you what it is. I've started another Bits and Bobs blanket.
Woohoo!
So the Bits and Bobs blanket is one of my designs. Lots of you out there, I'm sure, will have knit it. But it's a good few years now that I released the pattern. I couldn't remember exactly, and I checked this morning and I released it.
Can I try and guess?
Yes.
2017.
It was 2017. Do you know what month?
Why aren't we playing knit or forfeit?
I know.
I'm going to guess October.
No, September. September 2017. So it's coming up for 5 years old, this pattern. It's been out there a while now, and I know, like I say, lots of you have knit it. But it's been a long time since I've actually sort of looked at it, and certainly a long time since I've knit one. But it's honestly the most zen, relaxing thing I've ever knit.
The really wonderful thing we did, and it's coming back to me now, I feel like Celine Dion. It's all coming back to me now.
Please don't.
I'm trying to stop myself. I've succeeded. It's close. You filmed through the year the process of the creation of that.
Yes.
And it was so cool to film because it literally was over the course of the whole year. Because I think it started at the end, around about the Christmas, I think it was.
Well, it did. I designed it around Christmas 2016. I started it in January 2017. And I remember specifically because I was knitting it whilst you were going through the awful tummy surgery that Dan went through.
Yeah.
So that's 5 years ago now. I can't believe that. Gosh. And I was working on this, and this was my kind of trying to stop my brain from exploding, trying to calm myself, work through everything that was going on with Dan. I always hark back to that feeling that it gave me. It just gave me that feeling of comfort and peace and just, everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay kind of feeling. So I just thought, do you know what? I'm going to start another. So I've got it here, but I've got my original Bits and Bobs.
Amazing.
Which is down here.
Look at that.
I know, this is the original
Amazing.
Bits and Bobs blanket.
Much used.
Much
Yes.
used. So it's 5 years old now and it's still in perfect working order. Nothing has happened to it, you know, no ends come undone.
Definitely
no,
the squishiest blanket.
Definitely the squishiest blanket. I mean, it's just so lovely. And it produces a really big blanket. You know, considering really, I think there's quite a low number of stitches on your needle. You do get a really nice sized blanket for the low number of stitches, and that's just because of the nature of the fabric and also because we've got yarn doubled. So yeah, this is my original Bits and Bits and Bobs blanket. And in the original, what I did is 2 strands of fingering weight held together. The idea is you have a background colour which can remain consistent through the whole thing. Or in my case, what I did was I got 5 skeins of Cascade Heritage in different shades, but different sort of soft shades, like pale pink, pale blue, that kind of thing. And I used those as the background colour. So I just changed the background colour every 100 grams and then used Bits and Bobs for the second strand. It gives you, you know, it really makes your Bits and Bobs colours sort of pop out because you've got that neutral background. So that was the you know, the crux of the design, if you like, of this. So you actually end up using, if you follow the directions exactly to the pattern, you actually end up using the equivalent of 10 skeins of fingering weight yarn. So there's a lot of yarn that goes into it, but you're only knitting half that because it's held double. I hope that makes sense. So I thought, yeah, I'm going to do another one, but I didn't want to do it exactly like this. So what I'm doing instead, I thought to myself, well, rather than having that background colour consistent, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use all Bits and Bobs. And I'm just going to change colour whenever I run out of that Bits and Bobs. So, you know, I've got 20 grams, I've got 10 grams, I've got 5 grams, I've got leftover skeins. So I've got all sorts in here. I just went through all of my minis and leftovers and just piled them all into a bag, all the ones that I wanted to use. I'm going for quite a bright, fun palette of colours. So what it's also allowing me to do, finally, is to use up all of my beautiful birthday advent yarns that I got from my lovely friend for my birthday last year. If you remember, I got 50 of these lovely little minis. They're 10 grams, about 10 grams each. I had started 2 different crochet blankets with these minis, and just, you know me and crochet now, I just couldn't carry on with them. So the last one that I started was a V-stitch blanket, and it actually got to quite a decent size. And I was going to unravel it all, and Bryony saw it, and that was it really. She wanted it for her soft toys. So she's now using part of these minis in a beautiful teddy blanket, I suppose it is. I'm using all of the rest within this Bits and Bobs. So I've got lots of Bits and Bobs. I've got the leftovers of my pixie dust, my Pixie Yarns advent calendar. I used all of these in my pixie dust cowl that I showed you fairly recently, so I've got all of those to use. So here is where I'm up to. Oh, and I just am absolutely bonkers for it. It's all I've wanted to knit, to be quite honest. Here we go. Oh, look how bright and fun. I'll double it over and then it's a bit easier to see. Oh, isn't it lovely? I just love the brightness of it. So I'm not using any kind of really dark colours. Like in this Pixie Yarns one, there are some quite dark ones. I'm not going to use really dark ones. What I'm using are pale colours is fine, and bright. You know, I want brightness in this one. I just want it to be fun and bright. So yeah, I'm holding them double, but I'm just changing either one of them either whenever I feel like it or when it runs out, and then I'll just choose another. But I'm choosing the yarns. I'm not choosing them in a completely random way, because this is the fun for me. The fun is choosing what colour is going to work well next. And if you can see, what I'm doing is producing like a sort of gradual kind of watercolory effect, I would say. Do you know, imagine you've just got like a set of watercolours in all bright colours, and you're just dabbling them on and merging them all together. It's that sort of colour that that sort of look, I guess, that I want to create. So I'm just now, I've been using this one for a while actually. This is one of my colours I dyed. This was 1971. I dyed
last season's my favourite.
Yeah, I dyed it for my birthday. Lovely bright colours. And I'm holding that with Cinderella Blue, which is another one of my colours that I've done in my favourite colourways. And this one you can see is almost left over. I bet there's only about 3 grams or so left there. So I think what I'm doing now is I'm thinking now of swapping out this colour and merging in a different colour to go with the last bit of this. And I'm thinking, actually, I've got this sort of brighter blue here. I think I'm going to put this one in so that, it goes beautifully with this blue I've got. But then this is going to run out very quickly. This one will take over, and then I'll choose another colour to carry on that will be doubled with this. So it's just been such a joy, honestly, such a joy. I cast it on and I'm like, oh yes, I remember what this felt like to knit this blanket, and it's just so lovely. Now, anybody who has not seen this blanket before, you might think, oh, that's brioche. It looks just like brioche, but it's not brioche. It's not knit the same way that you knit brioche. The reason I designed this is because at the time, I think brioche was huge, and it still really is, isn't it? And I did try knitting brioche. I thought, I'm going to have a little go at this, and I didn't enjoy it. Just the process of knitting brioche, it just wasn't for me. But I really loved the fabric. And this is just another way of creating that same look of brioche, but not knit in that way at all. And there's no purl stitches at all. There's no purling with this blanket. It's just so relaxing, and so, like I said, for me, it's completely zen. Once you've got into the rhythm of it, I just go into this kind of little zone, and I just absolutely love it. So I'm knitting it on 4mm needles, which is what the pattern recommends, and I'm using higher bamboo. Again, just my very favourite. I love these needles. They're really gorgeously pointy. They're lovely and smooth. They've got just the right amount of grip for me. I love them. I really love higher bamboo. Just beautiful. And this is a fixed, I believe. Yeah, this is a fixed 80cm cord. So, you're not knitting it it's not a ridiculous length of cord. It's just because the nature of this fabric is so stretchy. Once it's off the needles, it does expand quite a lot to a lovely size blanket. So that's my gorgeous bits and bobs, and I'm just, like I say, I've not really been able to put it down. I've had to force myself to put it down to work on other things, because I just want to sit and knit it all day and just be all calm and relaxed. So, Dan Jones, what's on your needles? Oh, exciting times.
Kay announced yesterday, I've not seen you knitting very much on garments.
I've obviously not been paying attention.
It's all I've been knitting on every evening.
Well, it must be because when it's bedtime knitting, and maybe I'm not concentrating on what you're doing then.
No, yeah. That's true. Look, it's the anniversary. The sleeves are on. Woohoo! It's always difficult to show at this stage because I'm more than a few rounds in.
You are.
On the yoke. But yeah, it is quite hard to show just because, to open it out.
There we go, you can pull it out a little bit there.
It's a very different yoke. It's one of the reasons why I was drawn to this pattern. And I'm glad I'm knitting it, but I'm not enjoying knitting this yoke as much as I enjoyed knitting the yokes on either the anniversary or the Radari.
What's the difference?
The difference is there was a more uniform, although complex, repeat.
Right.
So you had a uniform complex repeat
So is this more random?
that sort of flowed. This at this stage, I'm 10 rounds into the yoke. There is no set rhythm to it.
Okay.
So you have to concentrate much harder. Now, I'm not complaining about that. And it's an interesting road for me because obviously there's all different types of yokes that you can knit. You know, when I think about the repetitive nature of the yoke of the Clairquot, I didn't enjoy that because it was too simple and too repetitive. The beauty of the Rodari and the Anniversary was it was complex, but you could see where it flowed. So I think those are my sort of... And you can spot the ones that are that way. You know, where there's a lot of colours going on and, you know, there's maybe some intricate, small, repeating patterns. That's going to tell you that, you know, there's going to be short, easy, manageable runs. Whereas this, it's a much more flowy... If you look at the design, it's a much more sort of flowy, wave-like...
Yes,
and it's
I remember.
larger.
Yeah.
So because of that makes it for me. Now, when I get through more of this, and this is the great thing about doing anything, when you do something different but that is the same in essence, inevitably you're going to get used to it and learn how to approach it. And so by the time I finish knitting this, I may well say, do you know what? I really love that. And, you know, I'd be cool with doing that again. It's only because it's the first time I've done it.
The colourwork gauge is brilliant, though. It's very even.
We were only talking about this just last night, or yesterday, I can't remember. We were talking about how cool it is when you're knitting to have an even gauge, because it always then produces, no matter what you're knitting. And it's one of the things which, again, long-term viewers, and certainly people who've watched a lot of my Quest series, from the Dan and Laura project to Journey to the Centre of the Yoke to Return to the Centre of the Yoke and now Self-Contained Knitter, I've spoken a lot about the desire to try and have that lovely, and that was one of the things which
it's very even.
I have
It looks great.
been unhappy with before. And if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything. It was one of those things which I really wanted to sort out, and I've really thought about it and thought about my approach, and all it's come down to is I've never changed my colourwork technique now, and I am getting to the point where I get lots of messages about people saying they want me to film it, and I'm getting close to the point where I'll feel confident enough to do that.
Yeah.
All I'm doing to even out that gauge is actually catching the floats more often.
Right.
Weird, isn't it?
Yes,
But
and you know,
if you
it's
think about
it's a
it,
pain.
it makes sense, doesn't it?
It's the bit I actually loathe about colourwork knitting.
Especially with sticky yarn.
Yeah,
It's particularly, but I don't mind.
It's just too much. I just want to knit. I just want to knit.
That's the beauty of knitting. It's got something for everyone, hasn't it?
Absolutely.
If you just want to knit,
Absolutely.
you can, you know, go for it on a bits and bobs or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
There's so many projects like that. For me, I love it because it gets that additional level of sort of concentration, I suppose is the word.
And you're going to add in a pop of colour, aren't you?
There's a diamond. I'm slightly nervous about it, but I'm sure it'll look lovely.
Yeah,
because,
I think it's just meant to be these two colours, isn't it? Is that
yeah,
right?
but I didn't want that.
But there's a section where there's a little diamond.
Yeah.
Is it a diamond or
It
a
is.
triangle? Is it
I think it's a diamond.
A little diamond running around. And we said, oh, shall we add in a pop of colour?
It was all me.
Was it you?
It was me.
Look
I
at
saw
you
it.
Go with the colour.
I know. Well, no. You helped choose the colour. It was me that said,
was your idea,
I can't just do that all in two colours.
Yeah.
It'll do my head in. So we need to put something more exciting.
So this beautiful green will be popping in, and I think it will just look great. I think it will really lift it, you know, because it's essentially two greys, isn't it? But adding in that little lift of colour, I think will just make the whole thing.
You're so right.
Yeah.
So that is my wonderful...
Great. I didn't look. See, I was
Alexander.
careful with your needle tips.
And I'm loving every minute of it. The yarn is let lopey.
Yes.
And it's challenging me in completely new ways. And yeah, what else
Brilliant.
is on your needles?
I was just grabbing a sock blocker.
It must be a sock then.
It is a sock. I've been working on my Moonstruck Socks.
yes.
that I showed you on the last show, but I've done quite a lot more, and I really love them, so I wanted to show you again. But they're being housed in this fabulous bag, which is a new one. Look at my beautiful bag, everybody. Oh my goodness, look at the cuteness of these little patches. Is it not the most adorable thing? This is another bag from lovely Emma at Moo and Mouse. Oh, I'm so thrilled. I actually did start another project and put it in this bag on Mother's Day, but the project didn't quite work out how I wanted it to work out. So I wanted to use the bag, so I've put the Moonstruck into my beautiful bag. So I'm actually not far off finished this first sock, which is what I need to do really to then start filming the series that I'm going to do. So I will put it on a blocker for you so you can see it.
The beauty of the design is it can be all things to all people, because
it can be interpreted.
some people say it looks like a moon.
Yeah.
Other people have said that's no moon, that's a space station.
Oh gosh, here we go. Star Wars reference.
People have said that looks like the Death Star.
Oh really?
Yes, which I quite like.
Absolutely, if you want it to be the Death Star. And I also think it looks like
Biscuits.
biscuits. It looks like biscuits.
Biscuits on your socks.
Why does it look like biscuits?
Well, it could. Oh yeah, I love one of those. Oh, it's delicious.
It doesn't look like biscuits. Ignore Dan.
Those macaroons are lighter than air.
It looks like. I'll show you the sock and then I can talk about it. There we go. Isn't it lovely? Oh my goodness, I love them. See, I've just got one more repeat to do here, and then I'll be on the toe, which will be a contrast toe in this silvery colour. But I think these either look like moons, which is how I've interpreted them, or candle flames running down, or I think it looks also like a string of baubles.
Yeah.
A string of baubles on a Christmas tree. Whoops, going the wrong way. I just love them, and the yarn is just working up so pretty. Look how it knits up in stocking stitch, isn't it lovely? Really, really pretty. But I'm really just loving working on these. So this is the right sock, because the moons are running down the right side of, the outside of that, so it'll be on your right foot, and then the other one, which is the one that I'll be doing for the tutorial, is on the left side, and I'll explain within the tutorial how you place it differently for each sock. So I'm using Eden Cottage Yarns is the main colour. It's this creamy colour with silver running through it, and it's called Moonstruck, which is where I stole the name from. So it's Eden Cottage Yarns, and it's on Victoria's Brimham base, which is an 85-15 base. It's really lovely, really soft and bouncy. It's the base that I dye on usually. So, when you see me dyeing on a fingering weight, it's usually this base that I use because I just really like it. It's really nice and soft. I've got one more moon to do, and then I think I'll be at the toe. I'm going to knit the toe and then give it a block, and then this will be ready for me to start filming the series, which will be
May and June.
Yeah, it's running through May and June. The sock tutorial runs through May and June, and then we will be running the Stitchy U through July and August. So we've got 4 months all through the sort of late spring and summer months where we're going to be running these things. So I think it's just going to be so fun, such a fun summer.
We're constantly running content, of course.
Yes, but
it's just that these are like destination.
Yeah. These are
This is like Disney Plus's Obi-Wan Kenobi series.
Is it?
No. What I mean is, there's loads to watch on Disney Plus.
Yes.
But from the 28th of May or whenever it is, the Obi-Wan Kenobi series.
Yeah, it's like a longer series. Yeah, where there's a lot more involved in it, a lot more content, a lot more videos, and
we should call them tentpole tutorials. That's what they call it. They say it's a tentpole series because it sort of lifts everything up.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah. You'd also never heard of It's in My Wheelhouse.
No.
I
still don't understand that.
Okay, we'll talk about it afterwards.
So
I'll send you through a Wikipedia link.
I don't know much about anything really.
Apart from 80s music.
Apart from 80s music. Oh, it's been really cool. We always listen to 80s music, but lately we've been listening to one thing that you've been asking for. I forget what it is, some mix or other.
Have I?
Yeah, and Dan didn't know any of them, and I was like, I know this.
No. I put it on deliberately because I knew it would be in your wheelhouse.
Okay, it's apparently in my wheelhouse, even though...
Because the mix was called 80s Clubbing Mix.
Oh, that's right.
Yes.
I was obviously an 80s clubber.
This is on Apple Music.
I was. It was late 80s.
I think it might be 80s Club Essentials, actually.
I was in the sort of clubs in like 89 definitely, into 90 probably, and maybe even 88.
But by the time the Macarena came around, she'd left.
I was a tad young, but you know.
I don't know if you were.
Snuck in. I think I would have been 18, wouldn't I? So I would have not.
That's not a tad young.
No, I wasn't underage. So 89 was the year that I was in the clubs, I reckon.
It's just nice to say I was a tad young, so we'll leave that in.
Well, I was young at 18. No, it made me sound cool, that, didn't it? That I was sneaking in there when I was 17. I wasn't thinking about it. I was 18 when I was going in. It was all legal and above board. If anybody's from Sheffield, Isabella's, I was in there. Isabella's, Friday and Saturday night in the late 1989. If you were there, you might have seen me dancing on the dance floor to Ride on Time from Black Box.
Yes.
Back there now. Oh, I wish. It's not there anymore. Anyway, I could go on and on about 80s. I'm not going to. So there is my lovely Moonstruck sock, which will be a series coming very soon.
We went in a club the first night we met.
We absolutely did.
It's the one and only time I ever went into a nightclub.
It's the one and only time Dan's been in a nightclub. That's right. It was in York.
We did a
radio show on it, didn't we? If you're interested in how we met, then...
Very recently.
Yeah, go listen to that particular radio show.
We've always kept it a state secret.
And we'll tell you all about it.
Yes. If you're so inclined.
Yeah, if you really want to know.
Look! I've been knitting. Oh, yes. I've been loving this. It's not... I'm not happy with this yet.
Oh, right.
I will be. You will be.
You will be.
On your second... On my second mitt. I'll definitely. You see, I do think that actually you should not on a fingering weight mitt. So I'm going to take.
Great.
Oh, well, that's good. I'm glad.
Look how cool it looks.
It's Crazy Zauberball, which is tremendously fun to knit with.
It's amazing.
Also, as well, what's great about Crazy Zauberball is if you're a lover of handspun, if you're a lover of textural yarn in the sense of thick and thin and a bit weird.
It is quite handspunish, isn't it?
It's very handspunish. I'm really, really enjoying knitting with it. And so, I feel very sort of lucky that Kate let me go for it with this skein.
Gave it to you.
Because I know you've had it in your stash for a while, haven't you?
It was sat in there doing nothing, so it's better to be used.
So this is, I can't remember exactly what these are called. It's The Pieces of Home by Miss Rap and Turn. It's available on Ravelry. The chart is great. I know I had an issue down here that the explanation for the Latvian braid wasn't very clear.
It was weird, yeah.
So, I would be able to do it right on the next one, but of course if I do it right on the next one, it'll make this one look weird, so I'm going to have to do it the same on the next one. The other thing that we sort of established is, and this is, where I'm going to need to perfect my technique when it comes to fingering weight colour work, is it's a bit tight. I think you said.
I popped it on. Let me put it on, actually. I'll do it carefully.
I'm also worried it's going to come out large.
Which hand is it?
That's the right hand.
It's this one, isn't it?
Yes.
I don't think it is big.
Right.
When I put it on.
No, I meant in length, actually.
Oh, right.
I know
How
it's
far
tight.
from the top? Oh, you're about to start the decreases.
Yeah,
it might be a bit long. But no, I can pull it down like that.
Right.
It might be okay. Because I think generally, don't they say that you start the decreases for a mitten when you reach the tip of your little finger?
Right, which, it's going to be close.
So it's about there, isn't it?
Yeah. That's the difficulty.
It'll be okay.
That is the difficulty, isn't it, with things like this? It's not like you can size a mitt like this, because you would literally be chopping off part of the colour work.
Yeah.
But do you know what?
Your gauge has got to be right, hasn't it?
Your gauge does have
for the length.
It does have to be right, but I'm not certain. I don't think my gauge is massively off.
No.
I think my technique generally might be
dodgy,
a little bit off. Yeah. There are some dodgy patches on it, and that is because it's the first time I've ever done anything like this in fingering weight.
But the front looks amazing, I think.
Well, turn around the back as well, because I do really like... You see, from a distance...
From a distance.
Yeah, you see, you're allowed to.
Okay.
I wasn't allowed to. Even close up.
It looks
There's
great.
only one tiny...
There's only just one little
And it's not even a
stitch.
mistake.
No, it's just a dodgy stitch there. I mean, I'm just being really picky.
What's frustrating with this mitt is I've not actually made any mistakes apart from the Latvian braid.
Yeah. And that
wasn't a mistake. That was badly explained in the pattern.
Yeah, I would say.
So, you know, when I sort of think about the Starmans, which I showed last time, but that was the first time I'd ever done a colourwork mitten. So it's all a learning process. So, you know, I shouldn't give you see, the thing is that it's all right saying I shouldn't give myself a hard time. By giving myself a hard time, I get better.
Well, yeah, any sort of practice, I guess, will...
I think that...
make you better, won't it?
Yeah, but what I mean is, I quite often get messages from people saying, oh, you know, don't give yourself a hard time. You're doing great. And I so appreciate all of those, because, you know, it's lovely, you know, to know that people think I'm doing a good job.
You are.
But what I mustn't do, though, is, and I think it's important, so long as you've got a good learning process that works for you, I push myself really hard.
Yeah, well,
That's just the way that I learn.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't change that.
No, I mean, everybody works differently, don't they? And are motivated by different ways of working. So, absolutely, I think it's good to push yourself. You don't learn, do you, unless you push yourself on things.
No, and I think, you know, we are similar in that sense. And you know, different people are very different, and it takes all sorts. But I think we are quite similar, because you are like the ultimate.
Don't know what he's going to say.
You're the ultimate perfectionist.
Well,
And I think any long-term viewer of this show will know that.
I'm just in
when
that...
she's inspecting my socks.
I'm just in that camp of if you're going to do something, then do it right, sort of thing. So I will always...
I'm also in that camp.
Rip back if I've done a mistake. I can't leave it.
I'm also in that camp, but I'm just on the edge of that camp. You're in the middle. You're like right in the middle of the camp.
Am I?
Yes.
Right.
That's good.
Well, you know, everyone's different, aren't they?
They are.
I like things to be right.
Or don't bother.
That's how I feel, but not everyone is like that.
No.
You know, some people think, oh, it's good enough, and that's fine for them because they're happy with that.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those people. For me, it's only good enough if it's as it should be, you know.
And this is the reason why I get terrified when Kate looks at my knitting.
I can't even look at that sock there.
The first one.
Yes. There's mistakes. But that's, you know, like I said.
But the second one is getting better.
Yes.
Because, first of all, that's right.
That's wrong there.
Yes, I know. Yeah, I know that. But
it's totally fine because you're happy with that and you're learning and it's an experience and it's your project. You can do whatever you want with your project.
I can't say that I'm completely happy with it, but what I'm thrilled about is the fact that I've got this right.
Yeah.
So,
but all I'm saying is if it was me, I would have to go back and correct those mistakes.
Yes. So you'd be knitting another sock.
Well, I would have corrected them earlier. I would have spotted them.
Yes.
Because I suppose as well it's the experience, isn't it?
It's the ability
if I've made a mistake, I can kind of spot it straight away within a row or two, and then usually you can drop down, can't you, and sort it out. If you don't notice you've done a mistake and you're like miles into a project, then that's an entirely different thing, isn't it? You've really got to think about it.
Which is normally how it works with me.
Yeah,
it's
you
rare.
Don't notice it.
I do with colourwork.
Yeah, but not so much with just like normal knitting. No, because whenever I think it's harder to spot, you know, in normal knitting. I do a row and I will actually check that row as I'm. Whether it's a conscious thing, I don't know. But as I'm like knitting, for example, if you're knitting a lace pattern, and there's a plain row in between each lace row, say your lace repeat is 14 stitches or something, as I'm going over that section I will sort of count them just to make sure I've got the right number of stitches and that I'm still on track. Yeah. And then if there is a mistake you can easily correct it rather than
I think I'm similar with lace. I have more difficulty with identifying errors in texture.
Right. Yeah.
Especially when it's a close knit. You know, when
I know what you mean. Yeah.
A short. If it's like big,
Yeah.
then I've got more of a chance.
Yeah.
But there's another learning point. So it's brilliant for me because another learning point that I can take from today's session.
Little mentor knitting session going on.
Well, how lucky am I? That's exactly what it is. Look, I'm desperate to see what the
else
final
I've
project
got?
is you're going to show us.
Well, I've been working on this. I showed you this last time as well, but I have been working on it, so I thought I would show you. And this is in
Like
another...
a little beaver.
I know. This is in another patchwork bag, actually. I seem to be very into the patchwork at the moment, but this one is from Coco and Flora. I bought this a while ago, but isn't it lovely?
Yes.
I love these little stars here. I don't... They
Is this
must...
a festive bag?
No, I don't think so.
There's a reindeer on it.
Reindeer. Oh, yeah, there is on that side. Can you see my little pink reindeer fella there?
Make me happy. You make me happy.
But these stars...
Sorry,
you
that
can
wasn't a
see
statement.
Here,
It's written on the
I
back.
hope I do make you happy.
You do.
But,
That was a statement.
Never know.
It's not written on the back at all.
I think this must be done on the machine. It must be some sort of fancy machine that she's got. But isn't
Yeah.
it pretty? So this is another bag that I love. And in this bag, I've got my owl cowl that I'm making for Bryony.
Oh, yes.
So if you remember from last time, I'm knitting her an owl cowl for sixth form when she starts sixth form this autumn.
Yeah.
To have a very own cowl. And she wanted browns and blues. And this is where I'm up to now. I think I was sort of down here maybe. I think I'd just started this second blue. And I've gone through the blue, the next section, and I'm on to the next blue now. I think it's looking really lovely. And guess what? I made a mistake. And I'll tell you what happened. Right? And I actually didn't notice it because, let me find it and then I will show you. So when you change colours on this, you do a little sort of eyelet thing. And on one of the eyelets, it's basically you do a yarn over. It's a free pattern, this. You do a yarn over, a double decrease, and then another yarn over. And I missed the second yarn over. And I didn't notice it. And normally what I do after that yarn over round is as I'm doing the next round after it, I sort of check my yarn overs that I've done them all, and for whatever reason I just didn't. And I only noticed it when I came to do the next set of yarn overs because my stitch count was off by 1 and I'm like, what's going on? So I looked down and saw that I'd missed a yarn over. So it's here, look. I don't know if you'll be able to see because the yarn's quite dark, but here, well, trust me, I can't show you very easily, but here there's a yarn over, a double decrease, and then nothing. I missed the yarn over, and like I say, I didn't notice it till I came to do my next set of yarn overs 14 rounds above. And I was like, oh, what am I going to do? And I thought, right, I'm going to have to rip it out. And then I thought about it and I thought, do you know, I haven't got to rip this out. I had to think about it, you know, just having had this conversation with Dan, I really had to think about it. And I put it down for a bit, thought about it, came back to it and thought, yeah, I'm going to have to rip it back. And then I thought, don't be silly. Bryony's not going to notice this and I can fix it. So all I did was I put that stitch back in. So I did a knit one front or a knit one back or something close to where I needed to do that yarn over. I just got that stitch back and then just put it in and everything was in the right place. And yes, I've got one stitch less on that section, but that's not going to be noticeable. You know, when I block it, I can just make sure that it's all the same width. So that's an example of where I have, you know, made a mistake and I am living with it because I could correct it in a way that meant that it wouldn't be noticeable. And also I really didn't want to rip out 14 rounds of knitting. Because it takes a bit of time. There's quite a number of stitches in this cowl and it does take a little bit of time. So I'm not always a perfectionist.
No.
So there you go. Yeah. You see, I am human. And sometimes I can live with things. If this had been on the actual pattern sample, I would have ripped it out.
Well, yeah.
And redone it. But it's not, this one's for Bryony. She won't notice. She doesn't even know, so that's the only reason that I'm living with it. If it was for a design or a pattern, like I say, a pattern sample, it would have got ripped out.
Do you know what it is? It's when you know a lot about something. When you know a lot about something and you understand something, because it's the same with me with music. Because you will like put on something and I'll be like, oh,
my ears are bleeding.
yeah, and it's only
I'll be like dancing around, going yay.
and it's a curse in a sense, because it means there's certain things that you just cannot enjoy and you can't listen to. I have got a lot easier with it as I've got older.
Yeah.
But there are still things which literally it's just abysmal.
You can't stand it.
You can just hear, when something's being done badly, when there's clear errors in it that could have been cleaned up.
Yeah.
And it's the same when you look at knitting, and that's why I think you're amazing.
It is exactly the same. Because
I think you're amazing because you can look at someone and go, well, that's wrong there, that's wrong there, that's a bit off there.
You can do the same thing with music, and I can't tell if that's good or bad.
Exactly.
I just know whether I like it.
Exactly. I think that's the thing. That's an expert and a layman. And I'm definitely a layman.
And I'm a layman with music.
Yes.
Because clearly I dance around to stuff that's complete rubbish.
Yes. And there's an argument for both camps to say, well, it's just knitting, relax. And similarly, it's music, relax. Well, actually, no.
No,
because if you're really into something and you're passionate about
knitting,
it isn't.
That kind of does not annoy me a little bit, but that's just somebody speaking from a different perspective, isn't it? And you should always think, I'm not saying you should, but what I do is I always think, I always try and think to myself, well, that's what I would do, but that's not what someone else would want to do. And I absolutely respect that someone else will do something completely differently and be completely happy with that.
Yeah.
Absolutely, live and let live. If somebody wants to do something differently to you, gosh, that doesn't make it right or wrong, does it?
If you can see problems, it makes it difficult to unsee them.
Yeah, I mean, if it's not my project, so...
No. But similarly, every time...
It's not what I would do, but it's not my thing, so...
Similarly, every time I listen to that particular piece of music, I hear the issues and it does my head in. And similarly, every time you look at mistakes in a pair of socks, all you see is the mistake.
It's like when we put the Greatest Showman soundtrack on.
Look, I can deal with that.
Dan's got used to it now, but
I enjoy their enjoyment of it.
Yeah, me and Brian love it.
I don't enjoy my own enjoyment of it.
No, because Dan can see, he's like...
Look, I'll only say one thing, right? And it's quite simple, because a lot of people are thinking, oh, what's wrong with the Greatest Showman? The majority of the snare drum hits in The Greatest Showman have been reversed. So the impact on the snare drum comes before the sound that comes afterwards. Yeah. Now, I know that because I'm a drummer and because I'm a musician. But similarly, anyone who's into music would know that.
I don't know that.
And
I just think it sounds cool.
I hope you can understand that to hear that couldn't sound any more wrong. It would be like saying a word backwards and going, that's all right.
I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I totally get what you're saying.
That's like you looking at my socks.
It's a bit daft, isn't it? It's a bit daft. But the whole concept of the film is a bit daft.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
No, absolutely. I love it. Me and Bryony went to the cinema twice to watch it, and we've watched it multiple times. We listened to all the music, we danced to the music, we love it.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean that a musician will necessarily enjoy the way that the music's been put together.
No.
Yeah.
No.
So anyway, the yarn for my cowl, the main colour, the lovely brown, is another Eden Cottage yarns. And this is the Silverdale base. So it's the same base, but it's got a sparkle in it. And this is the Twig colourway. Oh, I've shown you one of those already. It's Twig, which is this lovely brown. Oops. And then all of the blues are all Cascade Heritage. So I'm on to this one now, which is Denim. And then I've got Turquoise. I've got Bachelor Button. And Placid Blue to finish. Lovely, lovely. So I'm just working my way through that, and I expect my pace of it will slow down, because it doesn't need to be done till September. Even October would be fine, because you won't be wearing it in September. It's still warm then, isn't it, really? But yeah, this will be done in time for autumn winter this year. Really pretty. And it's a free pattern of mine, that, the owl cowl.
Folks, it's time for another journey into the art of yarn dyeing. Now,
Yes.
many years ago, Kay created a colourway inspired by the lush landscapes of Middle-earth, New Zealand, to you
It
and
was filmed in New Zealand, wasn't it?
me.
Yeah.
And today, it's finally time, because so many people have asked for this.
Yes.
Today, it's finally time for Kay to share the secrets of this gorgeous colourway in a brand new episode of My Favourite Colourways.
Over the last 7 years, I have created hundreds of gorgeous colourways. Hidden away in my library is the little book that contains nearly all my secrets. These are the recipes for creating all of my colourways, and in this series I'll be showing you some of my absolute favourites. I'll be taking you from undyed skein to finished colourway, because it's time for us to discover
Hello everybody and welcome to another My Favourite Colourways. Now today is an extremely exciting day. It certainly is for me because I'm dyeing up one of my absolute favourite colourways, and this is a colour that's been requested actually a lot over the months that I've been dyeing up these yarns, so the time was just perfect to show you how I do this particular colourway. I'm going to be doing two things today, but the main colourway that I'm going to be dyeing up is Hobbitland. Now Hobbitland was a colour that I dyed, oh gosh, it's some years ago now. It's another one of my colours that uses the magical gold ochre. You know how much I love the magical gold ochre. So it uses that colour, and it uses it in a way that gives us lots of different shades of another colour. When I dyed up this colour, I saw it and all I could think of was the sort of rolling hills in The Hobbit. Now I'm not a huge fan of The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, but I do like the sort of aesthetic of it, and it just made me think of those sort of rolling hills. So Hobbitland it is. Now I'm going to be showing you Hobbitland, but then in part 2 I'm going to be also showing you a colourway that is created using all of the same dye colours that I use for Hobbitland, but I'm using them in a completely different way, and it produces a completely different colour. Also, I'm dyeing on two bases that I've never dyed on before. So that's going to be interesting to see how the colours dye up. So Hobbitland it is, and the first thing to do, of course, is to show you all of the things that we're going to need to dye up our beautiful yarn. So first of all, the yarn. Now I've got some new bases this time, which is super fun. What I'm going to do, I've got two skeins that I'm going to dye the Hobbitland on, and two skeins that I'm going to dye the extra colour. So the two skeins I'm using for Hobbitland are, it's a DK weight yarn. I've dyed on DK weight before, but this particular base I haven't. It's 100% super fine, superwash merino DK weight, and it's really super soft. Honestly, I think it was 19.5 microns, so it's really gorgeously soft, but I haven't dyed on this particular base before, so it could be that it comes out slightly different, because I find anyway, certainly every base of yarn can dye slightly differently. So that's going to be really interesting to see how it dyes up, because I have recently dyed up Hobbitland on a fingering weight, and I'm going to show you that knit up later on, so we will be able to sort of compare the two, so that'll be really fun. So I've got two skeins of DK weight for the Hobbitland, and then the extra surprise colourway, I've also got two skeins, but what I've got is a skein of the DK weight again, But I've also got a skein of Suri alpaca and silk. I don't think it's baby Suri alpaca, that sounds a lot, doesn't it? But you know the base I mean. It's the one that a lot of people use instead of mohair silk. So it's a lace weight, but it's thicker. I think it's a thicker lace weight than mohair silk. It's very fluffy, very soft. This is brilliant if you can't tolerate mohair. I do find mohair to be a bit prickly. I find alpaca prickly too, but not this one. This one is like a teddy bear. Now, I've used it before to knit with, but I've never dyed it. So that's going to be interesting to see how that works up. So I'm going to put these two in the pot together for the Secret Surprise colourway. So that's our yarn, and I've got those already tied onto my removable cable ties. So that's the yarn. We're going to need our bowl just for soaking and rinsing. I've got the pans that I dye in, which are the ones I always use. Stainless steel casserole pots, nice and deep. We've got our citric acid, which is the mordant that I use. And then a mask, of course. My measuring spoon. We don't need brushes or anything like that today. I've got my 1/8 of a teaspoon measuring spoon, my big dyeing spoon, some old tea towels, and then the dyes. So we're going to be using 5 dye colours today, and they are all jacquard. So I will tell you the name of the dyes, and then if you can't or you don't have the same jacquard colours, I'm sure you'll be able to find them maybe in Dharma if that's more accessible to you, you know, a similar sort of colour. But all of mine are jacquard. So what I've got actually is 4 shades of blue. So the blue shades are navy blue, brilliant blue, turquoise, and sapphire blue. And then our super magical gold ochre. So that's the 5 dye colours that I'll be using. So just to go back over those, actually, they are as they sound. Navy blue is it is a true navy blue, so that sort of dark, inky navy blue. The brilliant blue is it's like a sort of mid blue, but it's very bright. We've then got turquoise, which is as it sounds. And then sapphire blue is like the gemstone of sort of shade of blue. And then the gold. So gold is really gold, isn't it? So there we go. That's everything we're going to be needing. So the first thing we've got to do is soak our yarn. So I've got sort of half a bowl of water, just warm water from the tap. I've got my rubber gloves as well, I forgot to mention those. And I've put into here about a scoop or so of the citric acid, which I would say is probably a good tablespoon. And I'm just going to sort of whirl that around just to dissolve the citric acid. There's no sparkle in this yarn, so I can happily soak it with acid in the water. There's no problem there. There we go. And then I'm just going to grab my 1, 2, 3, 4 skeins. Where's the other? There we go. And dunk it in. Give it a nice push down. And then I'll leave this to soak. Give it a soak for at least half an hour or so. You really want the citric acid to penetrate into all of those fibres. Oh gosh, it's really heavy this time actually. I think normally I only have sort of 2 skeins in here, don't I? Or even 1 sometimes. So having 4 this time, it is heavy lifting yarn, wet yarn. So just be aware of that. So that's it soaking. So whilst that's having a nice little hangout in there, we can get everything ready on our stove. Okay, so our pot of water is heating up on the stove. It's about half full, and I've put in another scoop of citric acid in there, and it's nice and steamy now. So I'm going to go and grab my yarn. So I need the 2 skeins of DK weight. There we go. And then just squidge out. I think this DK weight actually has absorbed a lot of water because it just feels heavier than 2 skeins of fingering weight would, and it's the same weight effectively. There we go. So we've got our 2 skeins, and I'm going to put these into the pot of water. There's no dye in there at the moment. And as I put them in, I'm just going to move them around so that we're getting a good surface area of each of those skeins. There we go. And then even when it's in, I'm going to sort of go underneath and grab a bit from underneath so that we're going to get, like I said, the most surface area that we can of each of the skeins. That is, it's not boiling hot, but it's certainly, you know, it's too hot for me to keep my finger in there, so I know that that's fine for us to start dyeing. So the first colour I'm going to be using is the navy blue, and what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to get an 1/8 of the teaspoon, so a full teaspoon, because this is an 1/8 of a teaspoon. I can't remember when I initially dyed this if it was like a heaped teaspoon or a flat, but I'm going with that, which is, you know, fairly full 1/8 of a teaspoon. I'm going to move over to the yarn, and I'm just going to distribute this over the top of the yarn fairly rapidly and fairly sort of haphazard. I just want to get a good coverage all the way over. Now, navy blue, I find when you first put it on, it looks purple. I don't know if you can see that, but it looks purple. It does to me anyway. There must just be a lot of purple in this particular dye colour. Now, take your big spoon. You might not have the exact same big spoon, but take your big spoon and just sort of pop it, you know, just tap it in, tap the yarn in. And now, can you see it? It does look purple, doesn't it? It's amazing, but it just turned blue. So what we need to do now, you can see it's nice and steamy, and I'm going to turn it down because it is starting to bubble underneath. I can hear it. I'm just going to leave that for a few minutes just to absorb that first layer of colour. Okay, so that's just had a few minutes just to let it largely set. Now, what I do just to sort of test the level of how much dye has been absorbed is if you just lift a bit of water up and let it drop, you can see the colour of the water as it drops down. Now that does still have a bit of colour in it, but that's absolutely fine. It doesn't matter if it's still got a little bit of colour because all of these blues are going to mingle anyway. What we're trying to achieve here is a very variegated blue yarn initially. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the skein. So I'll lift it up and you can see there is still a fair bit of dye in there, but when we move the yarn it's going to absorb some of that dye into the undyed bit. That's completely fine. But before we move it, I'm just going to move the yarn on the holders, which is my normal way of doing things, and I'm also going to turn it, and this just means I get the most variegation that I can through the skein. So you can see as I hold it up, we've got areas that have got very little dye and areas that are quite intense, and we're going to build on those shades of blue as we go through the process. So as I drop it into the water, it's going to absorb a lot more of that dye as I just move the skein around. So now you can see what I've got is areas of very pale coloured yarn and areas that are the darker blue. So when I put in the next layer, some of the dark areas are going to get it, but some of the lighter areas too. So we're really going to get a nice variegation. So just move that around, and before I do this I'm just going to pull it and look at the shade of blue. That is quite still a lot of blue in there, so I'm just going to leave that for a few minutes just to finish absorbing that layer of blue, and then we will put on the next shade. So we're going to do the next shade of blue now, which is Brilliant Blue. So the same process really. I'm going to go in and get about an 1/8, and same thing, I'm just going to tap my spoon, distribute it over the surface. And this is a much brighter blue than the navy. You'll see when I sort of get my big spoon into it. There we go. And same thing again. And you can see the difference in the shade of blue. It's very much more of a mid-tone and much brighter than the navy. Really pretty blue actually, it's gorgeous. So again, just going to leave that to set for a few minutes. Okay, so that's had a few minutes now, and I've just done a little test, and there's just a tiny bit of colour left there. That's completely fine. So we're going to give that a little move again, and you can see the difference in this shade of blue. It's very bright compared to the navy down here. So I'm just going to give that a little move. Sometimes you might find your skein gets a bit tangled like this here, so what I do is I just drop the skein, because sometimes like one strand can go the wrong way. There it was. Just find it, let it go, and it'll just release the skein. So drop it back in. You can see it, I can see actually there's less blue in the pot now. What will happen is, even if there's a bit of dye left in at the very end of the process, as it's sat outside sort of cooling, I just find that does absorb in. I never really worry when I'm dyeing this if I see blue in the pot, because ultimately it does all go into the yarn. There we go, we've moved that again. Let's just get a bit of that other blue up there. There we go. Okay, and we're now going to do the third colour. So we're just repeating the same process with these 4 blues. So the next one is Sapphire Blue. This one is kind of similar to Brilliant Blue, I think, from memory, but is more of that sapphire shade if you just think of the gemstone. So same thing again, about 1/8, and then over the top. Okay, and big spoon in. It's a bit more inky than the Brilliant Blue. If you think of the gemstone that was in Princess Diana's engagement ring that Catherine now has, it is exactly that colour. If you see, look at this colour here. So leave that a few minutes to set, and then we'll do the final blue. Okay, so it's time to move the yarn again and to put in our last shade of blue. So let's have a little look. You can see actually there's way less blue dye in there now. Let's move this, and at the same time actually I'm just going to flip the skein. I do all this moving and turning just because I want to create as much of a variegated yarn as I can. You know, there is always a chance you're going to get a little bit of pooling, because everybody knits differently, and you know what you're knitting can define how the yarn knits up, but I just like to do everything I can really to avoid that. There we go, so this is good. We've still got a nice amount of pale coloured yarn here for that last colour, so I'm just going to go down here to this skein and just pull some of that up. There we go. So now it's the turquoise, and I saved this blue till last because this is a very greenish blue, isn't it? Turquoise does have a lot of green in it, I think. I like this to be the last blue that I put in, because then it retains more of its own colour. Whereas what I mean by that is, for example, the navy blue that I put in first has had 2 more blues layered on top, so it will have changed the shade of it slightly, which is great. That's what we want. We do want lots of different shades. But I really like the turquoise and then the gold on top of that. I love the shade it produces, so that's why I'm putting the turquoise in last, so that we keep a lot of that bright turquoise before we put the gold on top. So in we go with the turquoise. That was a bit lumpy. Let's get a bit that's not lumpy. So this is a lovely, bright, gorgeous shade. So make sure that, you know, both skeins gets an equal amount, and then a spoon, and you can see the difference with the turquoise, I think.
It's that kind of Caribbean sea colour. And also what I'm going to do at this stage with the last blue is I'm just moving that turquoise around a bit more, like that, so that I'm permeating that dye a bit further down into the skein. Same thing again, just leave that for a few minutes to set, and then we can work the magic with the gold ochre. Okay, so that's all of our blue shades in there now. So we're just going to have a little look. And if you can see down here, there's not a lot of blue left in there now. So we're absolutely good to go with the gold. If we just have a quick look at the yarn, this is a good example actually. We've got that navy blue that we started with here that has now become even more intense with the other blues on top. We've got the gorgeous turquoise here, and then we've got the mid-tone blues as well, but we've also got pale areas of blue. So I know from that I'm going to get a really good variegation because we've got lots of different shades and tones. So let's give that a little move, and then we can do the fun bit. So drop it back in, and as I'm moving this around, it's going to absorb that last bit of blue as well. So you can see now on top, I've got all of those shades. I've got navy here, turquoise, I've got the brilliant, more bright blues, and then I've got lots of lighter areas as well, which is exactly what we want. Okay, so it's time for the gold. Now, we do this in 2 or even 3 stages actually. What we want, I'm going to go in initially with exactly the same, about 1/8 of a teaspoon. Our aim here is to change the colour in a lot of the areas, but still in some of the areas to retain some of those blues. So all I'm going to do is exactly the same. I'm going to sprinkle that gold all over the surface, and then you will see as we push that down, the magical change. And that's another reason I called this Hobbitland actually, because it's all mystical and magical, isn't it? So at the moment it just looks like yellow dye on top of blue yarn, but as we push, can you see the blues are changing to shades of green? Oh, I love it so much. Can you see now how that's changed? And the shade that I love the most is where you got the turquoise and then the gold on top. Oh, it's just fabulous. I absolutely love it. You all know I love my gold ochre, but this must be actually one of my favourite ways of using it. It's just fantastic. So you can see now, instead of shades of blue, we've got shades of green. So I'm going to leave that just for a couple of minutes, and then we're going to move it and do another layer of gold, and then we'll just see where we are at that stage. Okay, that's just had about 2 or 3 minutes, and I know I've still got some gold in that water just slightly there. And I want that actually, because as I move it, it's going to give some of the other parts of the yarn just a little bit of that gold dye. So you can see now as I lift it out, we've still got blues here. And then here we've got all those gorgeous shades of green. So I'm going to lift it, and you can see not too much dye there. And at this stage, look, we've got kind of a half and half thing going on, and this is what I don't like with yarn. If I was just to leave it at that stage, what I've got here is half of the skein with really none of that gold on, so we've got it all blue, and half of the skein would be green, and this is where you've got a chance of having pooling if I was just to leave it at that stage. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do my little movie thing and put on another layer. So I'm just looking at my skein to see where I've got the colour and dropping it in so that I know I've got lots of those blues still on the surface. You can see we've got some greens there still coming through, which is good. Okay, so time for another layer of gold, and I'm going to go in with about 1/8 again. Same thing, tapped over the surface and then pushed. And when we've
where we've put that on top of the areas that were already green, it's just going to intensify it. Again, I'm just going to leave this for a couple of minutes, but then I'm just going to have a little look at the skein because it might be that that's all we need. Okay, so I've had a little look at this. I pulled it out, I had a little check, and there's still a bit too much blue for what I want. So I'm just going to add in 1/2 of an eighth of gold as the last layer. It's entirely up to you now. I mean, you might find that you want more blues in there, and if you do, you can leave it as it is. But I'm just going to add in a bit more gold. I'm just going to use my spoon actually just to rinse it off, just to push that last bit down, and that'll be perfect. I'm now just going to crank up the heat, but I just want to make sure that my pot is at that point of starting to bubble, starting to simmer, and then I know that it's hot enough then to pop outside to cool. So there we go, that's our Hobbitland all dyed up and it is cooling outside. So come back in part 2 when we are going to be doing the very exciting second colourway using the same dye colours but in a different way, and it produces such a beautiful, oh, it's such a beautiful colour. So I will see you back in part 2 very soon.
Now that's what I call yarn dyeing. My goodness. I wonder, was it that colourway? I need to identify when it was. Because I wonder if that's when you discovered the whole gold ochre.
The magical gold ochre, I can't remember. It was either that one,
yeah,
or there's another one that I've done before called Water Sprite.
Right. Oh, you see, that was early too.
That was early. I use it in that. Was there any others? There was probably others as well, but I think it was either Hobbitland or it might have been Water Sprite, which is another beautiful colour.
I'd love as well to sort of have seen, it's where you get those really vibrant, deep, rich colours. I'd love to see the process and how you got to that.
What, go back in time?
Yeah.
I mean, I can't.
Yeah. You'd love to, wouldn't you? It's
I can't remember. This is why you should write everything down. And luckily, I had made really good notes back then.
And also have CCTV
notes
installed in all the rooms
days.
in your house.
Yeah.
I mean, that's actually the first time I've ever thought of a benefit for actually having CCTV, because at least you go, how did I do that?
Why would you have CCTV in your house?
Well, you wouldn't do, would you? But
people do that?
Well, I doubt it. But what I'm saying is how great it would be to be able to go back, oh, right, how did I do that? But I suppose it'd have to be really close in.
Yeah,
so
you'd have to keep all of the tapes and that.
All for the sake of just finding out how you created Hobbitland.
Yeah, I know, and I did write it all down, so, and it does, I think it looks like it used to look. Again, I can't fully remember, but yeah, I think it's good.
If I'm right, then we might be able to remember, because I think I might have videoed it.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
gosh.
Videoed it. I mean, even that sounds old. Did you like my reference as well to, now that's what I call music?
When?
Are they still around?
I don't know.
I'm
it
not
must
sure
be on about number 5,000 if they are still around.
I never...
Now that's what I call music 927. I don't know. I mean, are they still around? Does anybody buy the Now albums?
I don't think anyone buys.
I don't think anybody buys albums anymore. Listen to me.
It's so disappointing.
I feel so old, but actually it's not that long ago, is it? I think it's just, well, I like to think it's not that long ago.
It is coming back, because the whole records thing...
If you're 16, the 80s seems like, you know...
The records thing is coming back.
It is, yeah. Records are really big, aren't they?
It's come back with a vengeance, and I'm convinced that it's because of that tangible thing. You know, there is something from the band that I like.
We've still got a record player, haven't we, of mine?
Yeah, probably. But I wouldn't like to try and make it work.
No.
Anyway. And we're only halfway there.
Yes.
In part 2, Kay will be taking all the same yarn dyes in exactly the same order.
Yes.
But by applying a different technique, we'll create a completely different and equally gorgeous colourway.
Yeah.
But now it's time for me to ask Kay Jones, what's off your needles?
Ta-da!
Yes. Finally,
oh my gosh.
I get my reward. I may have got my crown.
Do you know what I've realised? When you said to me the other day that these were... Because you said, oh, the knit and forfeit socks. And I was like, what? I couldn't remember it all. And he said, oh yeah, that's what you knit for Knit and Forfeit. And it made complete sense to me then why these have dragged so long. It's because I didn't choose to knit them.
Yeah.
I was kind of like...
You did choose to knit those, though, because I asked for fully ribbed socks.
Yes, that is true, but
And I
I still
allowed you
didn't
to.
choose to knit. Do you know what I mean? It was dictated to me that I had to create this pair of socks because I lost.
This should inspire you to win this year.
I know, absolutely. I'm not knitting another pair of these, so yes.
You better win then.
Look, Dan's scrappy opal socks are complete, and they look great, actually, don't they?
Yes. Gorgeous.
So I did a broken 2x2 rib. I just couldn't face a fully ribbed sock in the end. Can't do it. You know, even though I love a textured pattern, for some reason ribbed socks just do me head in. I can't just...
Oh, you went all Jane McDonald.
I know, yeah, we've been watching Jane McDonald cruising lately.
Can I just say it's not because we think it's good.
No, it's just because it makes us laugh.
It's the best comedy show on television.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, it looks like Nadia.
No, yeah. Oh, walk through this door. It's just like Nadia, isn't it?
She meant to say Narnia.
Oh, gosh.
She was trying to say she felt enveloped in something, and she kept saying enveloped.
She said, oh, I feel like I'm enveloped in this. Oh, gosh. I'm not criticising her. Please don't think that we're criticising her. She seems like a completely lovely lady. But to watch it, you know, is just... quite funny.
For me, it's like listening to The Greatest Showman.
But then also we like watching the cruisy bit because we like to see other countries and things. It's quite fun.
Yeah.
We watch it for half an hour at lunchtime while we're having our lunch. That's, you know, it's not like we sit down of an evening to watch Jane McDonald. Why is that funny?
Because I couldn't imagine a worse fate. Let's relax.
Look, you're the
Prior
one
to
that
Slumberland.
wanted to watch.
Yeah, let me tell you, the one thing I'm not going to do is watch it when, you know,
Yeah.
our quality TV watching time.
Yeah, it's literally half an hour at lunchtime.
Well, no, but so you get the rigours of the day done. Okay, you get to sit down to watch a bit of TV. We're lucky if Kay lasts 20 minutes.
And then I'm asleep.
And then I'm asleep. So that's it. And then I might as well fall asleep. So that's it. So that's
we're useless, basically. We're useless on an evening.
50 minutes of TV. 30 minutes of it is invested in Jane McDonald. And 20 minutes of it is actually invested in something entertaining.
Yeah. Oh, gosh, we're so old. We're morning people. That's all it is. I'm up like... usually around 5 I get up. Dan's always awake by 6. We're just morning people, so come 9 o'clock I'm done.
Early bird.
That's it.
And all that. If I'm out running by 7.
Yes. Anyway, back to my socks. I think it even sounded like Jane then.
Yes.
It's rubbing off on me. Yeah, they're all finished basically. So I just used opal. These are from the opal advent calendars that they used to do. They don't do any longer, which is quite sad really. I might have got another one of those, but I bought it for 2 years, so I've still got loads of these left. I think they came in sort of 15 gram little minis, and I just used a bunch of those to make Dan some scrappy socks. Broken 2x2 rib.
Can I feel them?
Yeah, 2.5mm needles.
I've not touched them yet.
They are now yours.
Oh, this was worth it.
For you.
My goodness. you need to use this, channel this as inspiration.
Well, I don't normally mind knitting your socks, but I think it's because normally I choose the yarn, I make the decision, I'm going to knit you some socks. I think because this was like, oh, you've got to knit some socks. I just thought, not going to do what I'm supposed to do.
Beautiful job. They look gorgeous.
But they're all done and they're yours now, you can have them.
Thank you so
and I did do something slightly different.
You did indeed.
I did a modified umbrella toe with these. I made it bigger. Well, I say bigger, longer. If you can see, it starts sort of here and it goes all the way, obviously, up to the top. Instead of being about 2 inches in height, this is more like 3 inches. And it just seems to, it does fit your foot, I think, a bit better.
Yeah,
We'll see how you go with these. I did write down what I did, thankfully. Cool. So I can do it again. I can replicate it. But it's an umbrella toe just modified to give more room in that toe area because your feet are really wide
Thank you so
and
much.
big. So,
Ladies and gentlemen,
all yours.
it is time to travel to an alternate universe. Everything that came before is wiped away.
Wow.
As we now venture into a whole new realm
Yes.
of the same colourway, but different in my favourite colourways.
Welcome back everyone to part 2 of my favourite colourways. Now our Hobbitland is finishing off cooling outside, so whilst that is doing its thing, we are going to go over and dye up that beautiful extra new colourway. Right, we are here now to dye up our extra surprise skein. So what I've got on the heating up here, it's about half a pot of water. I've got some citric acid in there. It's heating up nicely. So I'm going to use the same dye colours that I used for Hobbitland in the same order, but we're going to use them in an entirely different way to get a beautiful, very subtle shade of yarn. So I'm starting off with the navy blue, and I'm going to put this directly into the pot. So I'm just going to take a little bit. I couldn't really tell you how much I'm going to use because it really is just, can you see? It's just a little bit. Now it's up to you really how much you use. Look at that. Did you see that go in? How cool is that? And look, it looks purple, but it'll change colour in a minute. It's so cool. But literally just like the tip of the spoon is what I've put in there. I'm going to give it a mix. And you can see there's not a lot of dye in there at all. There we go. But that's what we want. We don't want a lot of dye in there. We just want a little bit. And just swirl it around so that it's nice and mixed. And now we can put our yarn in. I've got a skein of the DK and I've got a skein of the floof yarn. So just squidge that out. I'm just going to give it another squidge because it does, this DK definitely really sucks in the water. There we go. And then I'm going to shake them out a little bit and then drop these into the water. And as I do that, I mean, you can see it's a very pale shade. Can you see it down here? But I'm just going to get them in as quick as I can so that we've got a bit of the dye all over the skein. When it's in like that, I quickly pick it up and move it and then drop it down again. So you can see it's just a really subtle shade of blue, and as I look at it now I can see that the floof yarn has definitely looked like it's absorbed more blue than the DK. So it's going to be interesting to see the difference in the two skeins, I think. So I'm moving this around because I want it just to really quickly absorb that dye. Let's have a little look. It's nearly all gone. The water doesn't have to be completely clear, but you want it largely to have absorbed that first colour. My pot is still heating up as well, actually. Okay, so that's fine. It's absorbed largely. You know, there's only a teeny tiny bit of dye colour in there, but that's okay. So I'm just going to squidge that out quickly. It is hot, so I tend to do this quickly, and just move it back over into my bowl, which is now empty. And I'm going to put in the next colour. So again, I'm going in sequence. So now we're going with Brilliant Blue. Again, just the sort of tip of the spoon into there, and give that a swirl around. And then we're going to put the yarn back in. So at this stage, it's a really pretty shade, actually. I think it's a good way of showing you how, I mean, that's navy blue, and you never would have guessed that, I don't think. So yeah, just going to give that a quick move. I was just admiring the yarn. I'm going to give that a little quick move. So just straight in, get my big spoon and start moving it around straight away. And then as soon as it's all in, I lift it up and move it again. And then back in with my big spoon and just keep moving it around. And because there's so little dye in there, it will absorb it really quickly. all this moving around can sort of tangle your skein a little bit, so I tend to just have a little look at it. If it needs untangling, just untangle it. Let's just have a little look. Okay, so now we can take that back out of the pot again, and you can see the process that I'm going through here. We're just going to repeat this with each of those blues. So now it's the turn of the sapphire. So again, just a little bit into the water. Just going to rinse the spoon off as well. Give that a stir. There's probably a bit more of that colour there, but that's fine. So here we go now, back in with the yarn. So before I do, I'm just going to give that a little shift around. Back in for the next blue, and again quickly move it around, because we're going for, it's really a tonal, but it's like a slightly variegated tonal, if that makes sense. And then give it a little move. Lovely, it's a lovely shade now. Gorgeous, really pretty shades of blue in there, really, really lovely. So I'm going to take that out, give it a squidge. And the final blue is going in. It's a gorgeous shade of blue in there now. So the final shade of blue is the turquoise. This is a really intense blue, so let's see what that tiny bit does. Whether I think that's enough. Yeah, I'm going to go with that. I think that's probably enough. And then yarn back in for the final blue. And again, before I do that, I'll just give it a little shifty. And in you go. And move it around. All in. So now I'll just move it a tiny bit. Can you see how quickly it absorbed that turquoise? It's almost gone. And then just keep moving it around until it's largely clear. The colour that this comes out is kind of like, how do I describe it? I think it's sort of like a sea foam or sea glass sort of colour. Let's have a little look. Yep, you can see that that water really is pretty much clear. So I'm going to take it out now, and it's time for the magic. So it's in with the gold ochre. We've got the merest hint of blue in there, not concerned about that. So I'm going to start with just, again, a little bit, and that could well be enough. Let's give that a swirl around. It turns into a lovely shade of gold with just a hint of green in there, because there was that tiny bit of blue. The gold ochre, I find it does sometimes clump a little bit, so I do make sure I give this an extra good stir. That should be fine. So let's get that yarn in and see what happens. In we go. So in quickly. You want it all in. Can you see how it's changed colour? Oh, it's really pretty. So I just quickly want to get that last bit of gold that's in there into that. And then we'll keep stirring, and we'll just judge whether I think that's the sort of right shade or if we need a little bit more gold. How much? Yeah, I mean that gold's really largely gone. Let's have a little look. The two skeins do look quite different. Can you see? I don't know if you can. But the floofy one definitely still looks more blue than this one. But there is still quite a lot of blue in there. I am just going to add a little bit more. Just remove the yarn for the last time and just add a teeny bit more gold. Let's go with that. That should be good. And let's get that yarn in there for the final time. Nice and quick. So let's have a little look. Yeah, I mean, it's lovely. The floof has definitely dyed slightly differently, but I think that's a beautiful shade actually. There are still hints of blue in there, but yeah, that is looking good. Lovely. So let's just pop it back down into the water. I'm going to just crank up that temperature, make sure it's just at that point where it's going to start boiling, and then I'll put it outside to join the other pot.
Okay, so our yarn is now cool and I'm going to give it a rinse. So I've got in my bowl, I've got some wool wash and just some warm water from the tap. I'm going to do the paler coloured one first, just in case we do get any sort of run from the darker shade. Let's err on the side of caution. So here is our extra surprise colour, which is just gorgeous. So in it goes for its little rinse. So all I'm doing here is I'm rinsing out the remainder of the citric acid that's left in the yarn, and the water looks lovely and clear, so we know that we've got a good set of our dye. And the two yarns do look slightly different actually, which it's been a really good experiment this, and I think once they're dry we'll be able to tell even more. So I'll give that a squidge. And you can see the water there is clear. There's our first one. Now it's time for the Hobbitland. The DK weight yarn I think is just so absorbent. Look at the colour. My goodness, it's heaven. So in it goes. So again, I'm just up and down for a few little goes. Gosh, this has come out so beautiful. I think you're going to be blown away. And you can see there really is, maybe there's the tiniest hint of colour in there, but really nothing. So we are good. And give that a squidge. Oh, it's absolutely heaven. So now we'll just go and give that a squidge outside. Okay, so our yarn is now dry. The floofy yarn isn't quite dry yet. I think because it sort of mats together, it's just taking longer to dry. So we're going to look at the Hobbitland that I've got 2 skeins of, and then the 1 skein of the extra colour that we did. So let's have a look at the Hobbitland first. Oh, it's gorgeous. It's really taken the dye beautifully. I absolutely love it. It's a really plump yarn. We need to now skein it up, don't we? Now this has got some weird looking ties on it. So first of all, let's just take a cable tie off. This is yarn, and this is what's holding the 2 ends together. So I don't want to cut that. And then we've got 3 other ties. So I think what I'm going to do is just leave one of those cotton ties in place, and I'm going to cut these 2 here. So I'm just going to grab my scissors and just cut through those ties, because we don't need 4 ties on there, just to, you know, keep it ordered. Now once it's been dyed, I think 2 is plenty. So now we just need to straighten it out, and actually it's pretty straight. Oh, the colours are just gorgeous. I just keep looking at the colours. So let's skein this one up. Eight. Tuck that in there. So that's 1 Hobbitland. Right, let's have a look at this extra colour that we did. So let's take off the cable tie. It's such a pretty shade, and we have got lots of different colours in this as well. Lots of different shades of blue. Just beautiful. I will leave that tie in place. Whoops, oh no, yarn down. I'll get that in a second. And I'm going to snip these other 2 ties. And then let's just straighten this one up and give this a lovely skein too. Eight. Beautiful. So I will skein up the other Hobbitland, and then we can take a closer look.
there we go. It's our beautiful Hobbitland and the extra skein. So this extra colourway, I've actually used this colour for a sock design, which I have shown you on a previous video show, and I named it Prom Queen. So this one is Prom Queen, and then we've got Hobbitland. So what I did do is, do you know my wrist tickler that I've been knitting? I'd got a skein of fingering weight in the Hobbitland. So I've been working that into my wrist tickler. Now I've got to the top. I've just got to do the 12 rounds of rib at the top now, in the Hobbitland as well. And then this one will be finished. But it knits up. Oh, it's so pretty when it knits up. So that you can see it here at the top. It's beautiful. And this is 64 stitches and it's on 2.25 millimeters. So that gives you a good idea on how it will knit up in a sock. But we've got the actual skein here, and if we compare it to the DK, it's very, very similar, you know. It's a really good match, I think. So I just wanted to see whether it's dyed up in a similar way on different bases, and I think it's pretty close. I mean, when we look, this is just what happens with hand-dyed yarns, you know. As you saw, these two skeins were in the same pot, and yet there are differences within the two skeins. This one has more of the darker inky blue than this one, but then conversely this one has more of those sort of jewel greens in it than this one, I think. It's such a gorgeous colourway. I absolutely love it, and I love this one as well. You know, obviously I've said I'm knitting a sock with that. So that's the beautiful Hobbitland. I hope you get the time maybe to dye some of this up for yourself. Maybe you'll knit a pair of Hobbity socks. Thank you so much for watching, everyone, and I will see you very soon on the next My Favourite Colourways.
What a show! Oh my goodness! Two different colourways
exciting,
on
isn't it?
more bases than you can shake a stick at.
I know, amazing.
Now, would you like to know
Yes.
the history of the saying, more bases than you could shake a stick at?
The shake a stick at thing.
Yes.
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 What is that?
Have you heard people say that before? Oh, she's got more apples than you can shake a stick at.
Yeah, yeah.
Although I've never heard anyone say that
I've
before.
never heard anybody say that, to be fair.
That is a very commonly used phrase in this country. And I used it for a reason. Because the history of that saying comes from shepherds and their sheep.
Right.
Because shepherds carry great big sticks. They use their doggies. Use their crook, which is a stick. And, you know, their dog goes out and the sheepdog is moving, and the shepherd is like directing the sheep with their stick. If there's too many sheep, though, not enough of them can see where the stick is pointing. And so they don't go in the direction they're supposed to go. Hence the phrase, he's got more sheep than he can shake a stick at. That was a literal thing. It was a literal problem.
Brilliant.
Amazing.
Love it.
I know.
I wish I had a reason to say I've got more sheep than I can shake a stick at.
But you can say you've got more bases than you can shake a stick at.
Well, there's two.
And the bases came from sheep.
Well, that's true.
Well, there was 3 in the show because you showed the fingering weight.
This one is not from a sheep. This is from an alpaca.
Oh, sorry.
An alpaca and a silkworm.
Okay.
It's not quite the same thing. Got more silkworms.
I've got more silkworms than I can
shake a stick at. No, it doesn't quite work, does it?
No.
Yeah. So
Look at them.
Yeah. So here's the Hobbitland that we created. Beautiful shades. Oh, it's just so yummy. I love it. So I've got 2 skeins of Hobbitland, and then here is the
one that wasn't dry.
Yep, Prom Queen. So here's the Suri alpaca, and I think I said at the time, if you remember, I thought this one looks slightly more blue, and I think it does look slightly more blue than this one. But that's just the difference in the bases. But I think it just looks gorgeous, doesn't it? And I've realised that the bag that I'm holding my wrist ticklers in, I showed you this, look, with the Hobbitland here at the top. But the bag that I'm holding them in, look at the colour. Look.
Amazing. Beautifully matched.
And that was totally unintentional, but how perfect a colour match is that? That one looks a bit bluer. This one looks like it. My Wizard of Oz bag.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
What a wonderful episode. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So one of these will be going into a prize pot for our year-long knit-along.
Yes. The Great British Coastal Challenge.
Yes.
If you're a runner or a walker, please do get in touch. Anyone can get involved with that. But the knitting, that will
one
be a
of these,
prize.
yeah. So it's a DK weight. It's about 220 yards, I think, something like that. So plenty for a lovely hat, pair of mitts, some DK weight socks even, but there's no nylon in this. So I'll probably go for hat or mitts or a cowl or something like that. Yeah.
That is the end of another wonderful My Favourite Colourways. It will be back soon. Next time, though, it's the return of Walking the Wall. And it's so I'm beyond excited because we're going to, a temple.
A temple.
We may have seen 2 altars on our first 2 walks, one each this time, and they're very rare.
They're very rare.
Well, we'll discover the story of it when we go. I won't preempt it, but to say I'm excited is an understatement. It's going to be amazing. So that's next time. Walking the Wall is back, and we will be walking to a lovely Roman temple.
Wow.
Amazing. Now it's time for the Endy Bits.
Endy Bits.
Did you see our last pop show?
Yes.
We had a wonderful guest. Yes, our Knitability editor, Genda Maria Keeler, came and showed us all around her craft room.
She did.
And it was marvellous.
It was marvellous.
There was
lots of yarn.
She had more yarn than you could shake a stick at.
Did it.
So that is available to watch right now. But the guests keep coming this year because in our next patron-only show, which is coming... It's broadcasting live on the 24th of April, and then it's available to watch anytime you want after that. We will have a very special guest.
Very special.
And that special guest is the composer of the music that you just heard in My Favourite Colourways, the composer of the music for Walking the Wall, Walking the Dales, the arranger of Kay's Handmade Christmas, and so much more. Yes, it's Bakery Bears composer Dom Jones. He's going to be joining us for an interview. And if you want to find out how you could submit a question for him, go and watch our last pop show.
Yes.
Because I'll let you know exactly what's happening and how you can, if you would like to, submit a question that we will then ask him when he joins us live on the next pop show.
That's Dan's brother, in
Yes.
case you didn't get that.
Very exciting. You have something to show us.
Oh yes, I bought one thing. So I purchased some yarn, and I purchased this for a specific reason, which I can't tell you. This is connected to a design that'll be upcoming later in the year. But it was so lovely that I thought I just wanted to show you before I actually work with it, because it'll be some time before you actually see it in the sort of flesh, if you like, knit up. But I needed some DK weight mini skeins for something, and I looked around and I found these, and they're just gorgeous. So this is a Etsy company called Ruffles Crochet Crafts. There's a little card. And I purchased, you can see I've got 12 mini skeins, aren't they lovely? I purchased 2 sets of 6. She had sort of 6 mini skeins, so there's 20 grams of DK weight in sets of 6. And I needed 12, so I purchased 2, and I actually put in the comments to her, you know, could I, if possible, could I have 12 different colourways? And she totally did that for me. So these actually came caked up. She put me in an extra one, which is really kind. They came in little cakes like this. Bonus, didn't have to wind them. Oh my goodness, I spend my life winding mini skeins. So that was brilliant. But I did actually rewind them into balls just because I wanted to put them all into one bag, because I just wanted to see them all together. So I did rewind them into balls, but that didn't take me very long at all. It's the whole winding from a mini skein into a ball. Oh, it just takes forever, doesn't it? But yeah, they're beautiful. So they're all different, lovely shades. Really pretty shades. And it was just really great service. So, you know, I always want to tell you when I've received really good service. And, you know, she was lovely. I think the lady's name was Claire. So, yeah, DK weight mini skeins. If you're in the market for them for blankets or, you know, scrappy projects, definitely give them a go.
Wonderful. Lots of gorgeous yarn today.
Yes, yes.
From the Let Lopey
I know.
to the ruffles
Yes.
to your wonderful colourways. What an absolutely gorgeous
Your
addition.
wonderful colourways. Is
Yes.
that the new name?
Because they're certainly not mine. My goodness. It is, though. It's one of my favourites, I think.
Yeah,
I think it's
lovely.
those colours.
The colours are lovely, aren't they?
It's very reminiscent of the sort of Northumberland hills, which is quite cool. But I mean, how lucky, whenever you see the New Zealand landscape is just...
Very green, isn't it? Very verdant.
There's lots of
green.
films,
I think that lots of films are made in New Zealand, I think, just because of the landscapes.
And all the sheep.
Because there's not many people really in
No.
New Zealand, is the comparatively speaking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, hello to anyone who's watching in New Zealand.
Yes, if you're in New Zealand,
Say hello in the
yes,
comments below.
Do.
Yes.
Say hi, tell us if you're in there's a North Island and a South Island, isn't there?
Right.
I've no idea which one's more populated.
No.
Don't know.
I've got no idea.
Yeah.
Folks, thank you so much for watching. Lots to come
Yes.
over the next 2 weeks. Oh, yes. We've just actually published a Favourite Place Snip Revisited from Mount Grace Priory, which was very cool. There was some brand new music in that from Dom Jones, the Bakery Bears composer, which is cool. But also there's reviews and self-contained knitter and design diary and all sorts going on.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for watching.
Thanks, everyone. Enjoy your knitting these
Indeed.
next 2 weeks.
And we'll see you
Stay
in
safe.
2 weeks for more.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Sitting and knitting, it's Dan and Kay, the bakery bears. Enthusiasm's not quitting for Dan and Kay, the bakery bears. They'll take you to fabulous places of which their favorites they'll share. You better buy a pattern, get yourself a bakery bear. You'll find yourself in a castle while watching the bakery bears. It never feels like a hassle to sit and watch the bakery bears. What's on your shelf or what's in